Okay, what we're going to do now is take a look at setting this up on the client. So I'm just going to close all these down. And if we just go and take a look at our browser first of all, I'm logged in as Lisa. And I can see that even though I've had more members than this, I'm now down to 10. And that's because our server now is returning us 10 results by default. If we go and take a look at the console here, and I'll just go into the console and let's just refresh the page to make sure that we go and hit our API and get the request back. And if I take a look at the user's request, the 200, then what we should see inside here is inside the response headers, we should see the pagination information. And we can see that we're on current page of 1, the items per page is 10, the total items is 13, and the total pages is 2. So that's good. We're getting our pagination information back inside our response headers, and what we also want to double check is that we've got this access control expose header, and we can see this is set to pagination and it matches the header that we're returning here. Any deviations from spellings there and it simply just won't work as you would hope it would. So now we know we've got that information, let's go and take a look at what we need to do in the client. And what we'll do first of all is we'll create a new interface for our pagination information. So inside the client, inside the source folder, inside the app, and then inside models, what we'll do is we'll create a new file and we'll call it pagination.ts. And inside here, we're just going to give our pagination information some typing. So what we'll do is we'll export an interface and we're going to call it pagination. And inside here, we're going to get our current page, which is going to be a number. We'll get the items per page, again a number. The total items, again a number. And the total pages, which is a number. And this needs to match exactly the information that we saw inside the response header. Otherwise, you're going to get some kind of typing error and it's not going to work as expected. What we're also going to do is we're going to create a class for this. And what we're going to do is we're going to say export class and pagination, or what we'll call it is paginated results. And this is going to be used for any of our different types. And because TypeScript is great, it also takes type parameters, and we can specify T here, which means we can use our paginated result with any of our different types. So we'll specify results, and this is going to be T, and for the initial example, T is going to represent an array of members. So what T is effectively going to be is this, an array of members, but we'll call it T, so we can use it for anything. And then we'll specify our pagination is a type of pagination, the interface we've just created. So our result, our list of members are going to be stored in the result property, and the pagination information is going to be stored in the pagination there. So let's head over to our member service and see what we need to do here. And what we're going to do is work on our getMembers method. And our caching stuff, what we're doing with caching, we're going to turn this off for the time being. I'm going to uncomment, or I'm going to comment out this. And I'm also going to remove what's going on inside here at the moment as well. We're going to come back to this later, and in fact I'm just going to remove this completely for the time being, and we'll pretend that we never set up caching inside our service at this moment in time. What we're going to focus on first is making sure we get pagination set up, and then we'll come back and fix the caching once again. So what we'll do inside here is we'll set up a property for our paginated result. So we'll say paginated result, and this is going to be a type of paginated result, and it's going to be a member array. And we're going to set this equal to a new paginated result so that we initialize this. And again, we specify member array inside here and add parentheses. So this is what we're going to store our results in. And what we need to do for our getMembers, we need to pass in the pagination parameters. So what we'll do is we'll specify page, which can be null. So we'll add the optional parameter there, and it's going to be a type of number. And then we'll have our items per page, again, could be null and also a type of number. And then inside here, what we'll do is we'll say let params equal new HTTP params. And this gives us the ability to serialize our parameters, and this is going to take care of adding this on to our query string. So what we'll do then is we'll double check to see if we've got a page and make sure it's not equal to null. And we'll also double check that the items per page is also not equal to null. Otherwise, we're just going to stick with the defaults and let the server return what it wants to. And what we'll do is we'll say params equals params dot append, and then what we need to do is pass the page number. This is our query string, and then we pass up the page. And because a query string is a string, we need to make the page dot to string. And then we'll just copy this line down and we'll use this for page size. And we're going to specify items per page to string. Now what we want to do here inside this return method is we need to pass up our parameters here. And what we need to do inside our get method is we need to observe. And then we can specify the response, and then we pass up the params. Now this kind of changes things, because when we're just using HTTP GET normally, this is going to give us the response body. When we're observing the response and we use this to pass up the parameters that we've created here, then we get the full response back. It doesn't go and get the body of the response for us, we'll need to do that ourselves. So we're still going to keep this pipe method, and what we're going to do inside here is we're going to use the map function once again so that we can get hold of the response. And inside here what we're going to do is we're going to say this.paginated result, and the result is equal to the response.body. Our members array is going to be contained inside here. And then what we can do is check our pagination headers. So we'll say if response.headers.get, and then we need to specify pagination with a capital P, because that's how it's being returned and that's how we're going to get it from the headers. And we're going to check to make sure this is not equal to null. And then what we'll do is we'll say list.paginated result.pagination is equal to, and then we'll say json.parse, and we'll say response.headers.get, and then pagination. And what we're going to do then is return from this the paginated results. So we've changed things now, and we're going to need to do things a bit differently inside the member list component for how we're getting these members. So what we'll do is we'll head over to our member list component, and we can see straight away we're getting an error here now. So what we'll do is we'll change our members back to just a normal property, and we'll say members as type of member and a type of array. And what we're also going to store inside here is our pagination information. So we're going to have pagination of type pagination, and we're also going to set a page number equal to 1 and a page size, and we'll just set this for now default equal to 5. And then what we'll do inside our ng on init, we'll go back to our load members method. So we'll add this back in. We'll say load members, and we'll say list.memberservice.get members, and we'll say list.page number, and we'll say list.page size. And then what we'll do, we'll subscribe to this. We'll not worry about piping this and taking 1 in this case. This is a HTTP response, and HTTP response is typically complete. So it's not compulsory, or at least in this training course, it's not compulsory to always use the pipe to go and just take 1. We'll just keep things simple, and we'll get the response, and we'll say this.members equals the response.results, and this.pagination equals response.pagination. As our response now is our paginated results, and if we take a look at this, then we can see that this is a type of paginated results and member array. So now we've got, in our component, we've got this information stored inside our component's class properties. And what we can do then is we can remove this method, and we'll say list.load members. And then we'll need to go to our member list template, because we also need to adjust this. And instead of members async, we're just going to say let member of members. And then what we can do is head over to our browser, and we can see now that we're getting 5 results back. And if I refresh the page, sure, we're going to get 5 results. We have turned off the ability to cache our responses. For the time being, we're going to make API requests. Don't forget, we're just doing this locally at the moment. We're not sending all this traffic over the internet, so it doesn't matter at the moment, and we will come back to this later. The idea of this is to set up the functionality so we're clear on paging, and then we can come back and switch back on the caching, because it's slightly more complicated when we do introduce pagination anyway. So what we need to do next is display the information in the user's browser so they can actually switch between the different pages, and we'll take a look at that next.